Welcome! I'm glad you're joining me as we delve into one of the most compelling and, let's be honest, mysterious chapters in all of Scripture, Revelation 17. Our goal is to unmask this figure known as Babylon the Great. It is a profound and sobering chapter, but I promise you it's one that ultimately offers immense hope for the believer. So, let's begin. The vision given to the Apostle John is introduced with this startling title. It's written right there on the forehead of a woman, a symbolic figure of immense power and seductive influence. This name immediately establishes the gravity of what we're about to study, a spiritual system that, in a sense, gives birth to all that opposes God on the earth.
To really get our minds around this complex vision, we're going to follow a very clear path. We'll start with the vision of the great prostitute, then we'll dig into the historical context. From there, we'll follow the angel's own step-by-step interpretation to uncover the core theological truths and spiritual lessons before we arrive at the chapter's ultimate verdict: the Lamb will triumph.
So, our study begins right where the vision begins. An angel invites the Apostle John to witness a divine judgment, the unmasking of the great prostitute. And let me tell you, this isn't just a spectacle. It is a revelation of the corrupt spiritual system that is driving the world.
What John sees is just shocking and incredibly opulent. This woman sits on a terrifying scarlet beast, a clear symbol of satanic power. She's dressed in purple and scarlet, the colors of royalty and immense wealth, representing the seductive glamour of commerce and earthly authority. But look closer. The golden cup she holds, which seems so sacred, is actually filled with the filth of her idolatry. Her influence is global. It extends over all peoples and nations. And most horrifying of all, John sees that she is intoxicated, drunk with the blood of believers who have held faithfully to the testimony of Jesus. The sight is so overwhelming that John himself is just greatly astonished, which prompts the angel to give us the interpretation we so desperately need.
Now, before we can understand the angel's interpretation, we have to ground these symbols in their original context. You see, for John's first-century audience, these images were not abstract at all. They resonated deeply with the world of the Roman Empire, a world where religion, politics, and commerce were all dangerously tangled together.
It's absolutely vital to understand where these events fit in God's timeline. You see, prophecy often unfolds in stages. The Bible describes different eras or dispensations where God interacts with humanity in different ways. While we today live in the age of grace, the events of Revelation 17 are prophetic. They describe a future period known as the tribulation, which takes place after the church has been taken from the earth. So this isn't about the past. It's a look at the world system that will dominate right before Christ returns.
Okay, let's decode these symbols. In the Bible, prostitution is the definitive metaphor for idolatry. It's about exchanging loyalty to the one true God for the fleeting pleasures offered by false gods. The purple and scarlet, well, those were the colors of Roman imperial power and just incredible wealth. The golden cup, that echoes Jeremiah's warning about ancient Babylon, whose seductive influence made the nations drunk. And the seven hills, for any reader in the first century, that was an unmistakable direct reference to the city of Rome. And yet, as we're about to see, the symbol extends far beyond any single city to a timeless system of rebellion.
With that context established, we can now turn to the angel's own explanation. This is where we move from the shocking mystery to divine meaning, as the angel patiently walks John and you and me through the vision, interpreting its key parts piece by piece.
This, right here, gets to the theological heart of it all. Babylon the Great is a masterclass in what theologians call hamartiology, the doctrine of sin. But we're not just talking about individual failings here. This represents sin in its ultimate, systemic form, a global system built on idolatry, on self-exaltation, and on violence against those who hold to the truth.
The angel begins with the beast. And you have to notice this. It is a satanic parody of God's eternal nature. God is the one who is, and who was, and who is to come. He is the eternally self-existent one. The beast, by contrast, once was, now is not, and yet will come. This is a counterfeit resurrection, a demonic mimicry designed to awe and deceive a world that has rejected the one true God. It signals a brief, stunning resurgence of power that will end in absolute destruction.
Then the angel decodes the beast's features. The seven heads have a dual meaning. They are the seven hills of Rome, but they also represent a succession of seven kings or world empires. The angel tells John, 5 have fallen, one is, the other has not yet come, pointing to a historical progression of worldly power that will climax in a final empire. The 10 horns? Those are identified as 10 future kings who will rise and receive authority with the beast for a very, very brief period, just 1 hour. And their single, unified purpose is to give all their power and authority to the beast to do the unthinkable, to make war against the Lamb.
But then, right at the climax of this description of utter rebellion, the narrative gives us its central, unshakable assurance. Let this truth anchor your soul. The Lamb will triumph over them. And why? Because he is Lord of lords and King of kings. The outcome? It's never in doubt. All the assembled power of a rebellious world is as nothing before the slain and risen Lamb.
So who stands with the Lamb in his victory? Well, the Bible gives us this beautiful three-part description that really gets to the heart of salvation, or what theologians call soteriology. His followers are called by the gospel, chosen by God's eternal grace, and faithful in their perseverance and obedience. This is our identity in him.
And then comes a stunning plot twist. What happens to the great prostitute? The very beast and the 10 kings that she rode to power, they turn on her. They come to hate her, they strip her, and they utterly destroy her with fire. But listen, this is not just a political betrayal. The scripture gives us the divine commentary. For God has put it into their hearts to accomplish his purpose. Even in their hateful rebellion, they are unwittingly fulfilling the decreed will of God. We'll explore that theme more now.
Having walked through the angel's interpretation, we can now step back and synthesize the core theological doctrines that are revealed in this dramatic downfall of Babylon. This chapter is just so rich with profound truth about God's character and his plan for all of history.
A foundational truth that we see here, and it's critical for understanding prophecy, is the clear distinction the Bible makes between God's program for national Israel and his program for the church. The church is a spiritual body with a heavenly destiny, completely distinct from God's promises to restore the nation of Israel here on earth. And Revelation honors this distinction, showing how God's plans for both will be perfectly fulfilled, each in their own time.
But really, the most dominant doctrine in this chapter is the absolute sovereignty of God. As we just saw, God uses the wicked intentions of the beast and the 10 kings to bring about his own righteous judgment on the harlot system. Just as he once used Assyria as a rod of judgment against ancient Israel, he uses the fury of his enemies to accomplish his purposes. This gives us immense confidence. History is not just a chaotic series of accidents, it is moving, inexorably, toward God's decreed and glorious conclusion.
Okay, but this theology is not meant to just remain abstract. It is intensely practical. So let's now shift our focus to the spiritual lessons we can draw from this chapter for our own lives as we seek to live faithfully for Christ in a world that is still very much under Babylon's intoxicating influence.
So how do we live? Well, first, with discernment. We have to resist the allure of a culture that offers us security and prosperity if we will only compromise our conscience. Second, we live with courage. And our courage isn't based on political outcomes, it's based on the unshakable truth of God's sovereignty. Third, we are called to witness. We bear faithful testimony to Jesus, knowing that it may be costly, just as it was for the saints whose blood filled that harlot's cup. And finally, we live with hope. Our ultimate citizenship is not here. We fix our hope on the New Jerusalem, the true city whose architect and builder is God. And this brings us to our conclusion, the final, unshakable verdict of Revelation 17. After all the mystery, all the symbolism, the rebellion, the judgment, one truth stands supreme, shining brighter than anything else.
Let's read this verse one more time. They will wage war against the Lamb, but the Lamb will triumph over them because he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and with him will be his called, chosen, and faithful followers. That is the gospel in miniature. It is the story of history. The powers of this world will have their brief, furious hour, but the victory belongs to the Lamb and to those who are his. This isn't a wish, it is a divine guarantee. My prayer for you is that this profound truth would steady your heart, especially in these uncertain times. May it clarify your hope, anchoring it not in the shifting sands of this world, but in the certain and triumphant return of our King. For more in-depth studies just like this one, I want to invite you to visit the Grace and Knowledge series blog at woody-brohm.online. Thank you so much for joining me.